These are the examples from lesson 4.3, right triangle trigonometry. Example 1. Suppose that a right triangle ABC has legs of 6 centimeters and 3 centimeters. Evaluate the 6 trigonometric functions for angle B, where angle B is the larger acute angle. All right, let's start off by drawing a picture of this. We're going to have our right triangle here. And we know that B is an acute angle, and so I'll just put angle B down here. And normally, but not always, angle C is the right angle in a right triangle. And that's going to bring A up here. Now, if B is the larger acute angle, that means that 6, the larger side, has to be across from angle B, because in geometry we've got a theorem that says that the larger angle is across from the larger side. That means that the other leg, which is not the hypotenuse, is going to be down here. This is C. The hypotenuse is up here, and we are working this problem with respect to angle B. And we want to find 6 trigonometric functions. Well, remember, we have the SOHCAHTOA, all right, and so this is the sine function being used for the opposite side and the hypotenuse. This is the cosine function being used for the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, and then this is the tangent function being used for the opposite side and the adjacent side. Okay, the first thing we need to do is figure out what the hypotenuse is. And since I have a right triangle and I know 2 sides and I'm looking for the third side, that means I'm going to use my Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. In our case, 3 squared plus 6 squared is equal to H squared. All right, so 3 squared plus 6 squared, 3 squared is 9, 6 squared is 36. This is going to give me 45 equal to H squared. And then when I square root both sides to figure out what H is, remember the radical and the power will cancel, we have the square root of 45 equal to H. Well, the square root of 45 has a perfect square in there, 9. 45 is actually 9 times 5. And I know the square root of 9, it's 3, but I don't know the square root of 5, so it's going to have to stay underneath the radical sign. So that means the hypotenuse is going to be 3 times the square root of 5. All right. The sine for angle B is going to be the side across from angle B, that's going to be 6, divided by the hypotenuse we just found. This is 3 times the square root of 5. And it looks like 3 can go into 6, so this reduces to 2 over the square root of 5. But we don't want radicals in the denominator, so we'll have to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5. This is going to give me 2 times the square root of 5 over the square root of 25. And I know the square root of 25 is 5. That means that the sine of angle B is 2 times the square root of 5 over 5. The cosine for angle B, this is the side that's adjacent to angle B. That's this one right here, 3. The adjacent side actually is part of the angle. The hypotenuse would be the other side of the angle there. This is going to be 3 divided by the hypotenuse, 3 square roots of 5 over 5. And it looks like 3 can go into 3. This reduces to 1 over the square root of 5. But we don't want a radical in the denominator, so we'll multiply by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5. This gives me the square root of 5 over the square root of 25. And I know the square root of 25, it's 5. So we have the square root of 5 over 5. And you can't cancel these because this one is underneath the radical sign and that one is not. The tangent for angle B, This is the opposite side over the adjacent side. Well, the side opposite from angle B is 6. The side adjacent to angle B is 3, and this fraction reduces to 2. The cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent. So if the tangent is 6 over 3, then the cotangent is going to be 3 over 6. And that fraction reduces to 1/2. The cosecant, this is the reciprocal of the sine, and if the sine is 2 divided by the square root of 5, the cosecant is the reciprocal of that, which is the square root of 5 divided by 2. And then the secant, the reciprocal of the cosine. If the cosine is 1 divided by the square root of 5, then the secant is the reciprocal of that, the square root of 5 divided by 1, and that just reduces to the square root of 5.